Hey, it's Brock here with Uncommon Aquatics, and behind me is a 125-gallon tank that's only had a couple fish in it for the last few months, and it's a huge waste of space. So right now I'm going to take these Acara out, and I'm going to move them to a 40-gallon breeder, and I'm going to set up what I think is going to be an amazing stocking list on this tank. I think it's going to be epic. I've got a huge cooler full of bags of fish over there. We're going to be adding all those into the tank. And, you know, every time I set up an aquarium, I want that aquarium to be the coolest aquarium that I've ever seen. And definitely the coolest aquarium I've ever had. And I keep finding ways to do that, and I hope that you do too. Always thinking like, what would be something else cool I've never done? A few months ago, I made a video saying that this was the perfect aquarium. And I'm not going to repeat all the reasons why I love this tank so much, but there are a lot of monster fish in here. So just recently, I would have told you this was the coolest aquarium I've ever had. The discus are hiding right now, but there are 6 beautiful discus in there thriving in this aquascape that I made myself. After that, I set up this hardscape with these African cichlids in it. And it's a beautiful mix of fish colors. It's very active. These rocks came off of my own property. I dug them out with my excavator. And I love this tank, and it maybe topped the last one, but now I want to top it again. So now let's move these guys around and show you what we're replacing them with. So we have 21 fish to add here, and there's about 4 or 5 species. I did not want just a random mismatch of fish in here. So when you do a community tank, you can do one of these and one of those and be random about it, but I think it's much more effective, and I've got this comment from some of you guys as well. It's much more effective when you can have the right number and the right mix of each kind of fish. Now, for instance, we're starting with these clown loaches. Clown loaches do best in groups. And I've got a variety of sizes, but several of these bags have clown loaches in them. All right, these I think are the biggest of the clown loaches. Maybe not. Those are at least medium size. Those are bigger than you normally find at a store. Now, clown loaches are a bottom dweller. They're an activity fish. They're a lot of fun to watch. They get the clown name not just from the stripes, but sometimes they act really silly and goofy, and they can be a lot of fun. The other interesting thing about clown loaches is everyone pictures these small clown loaches, but they get absolutely enormous. These can be over a foot long. At that point, I couldn't have so many of them in here. But the thing is, they are slow growers, and so it takes a long time for them to get to that size, at which point you have plenty of time to rehome them. Some fish, like if this was an Oscar, it would go from that size to full grown in less than a year. These, it might take 8 years before you have to worry about them getting so big. So, since we're already talking about clown loaches, let's get the others out of the bag. So we currently have 2. Here's 2 more. These are much smaller, the size you normally find them. And normally you find these little bitty clown loaches for about $15 in my area. The bigger ones are $30. But if you find a clown loach that's, 10 or 12 inches long, you might pay $500 or more for it. I've heard that full-grown clown loaches can be very expensive. So we currently have 4 clown loaches. Now, this fish store did something kind of unusual, but they do that a lot. They put their fish sometimes in these little containers instead of bags, but there are 5 clown loaches in this bag, or in this container. And these are small ones also. So there were 4 already, there's 5 more, so we're up to 9 clown loaches. Now, clown loaches give you a color pop, they give you activity. They're just a fun fish to keep. They're not predatory, but they can be kind of a pest fish that will bother other fish that don't like to be bothered. Clown loaches are kind of expensive fish. Why did I get so many? Because that's what's best for the fish. They don't like to be kept by themselves. The same is true for this next one. This is a pictus catfish. They do not like to be kept by themselves. Now that's a good size one. That's a 4-line pictus. Pictus cats, there are 2 main varieties. One of them gets to about 5 inches, the other one gets about to 8 inches. Those are small for catfish, although obviously not small like a Corydoras. But that's a nice size pictus. Now some kinds of catfish like to be kept by themselves, not the pictus. And it's my job as a fish keeper to respect the fact that they don't like to be kept that way. They like to be kept in groups, so I'm keeping them in groups. So that's one larger pictus. Here is a second larger pictus. They're a cool little catfish. They've got the long flowing whiskers and they're active. You know, a lot of catfish will just lay on the bottom of the tank all day long. The pictus is very active. I thought I was done with clown loaches, but here are 3 more. So we had 9. We're now up to a dozen clown loaches. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, there's 12. I've always wanted a big group of clown loaches. I've had individual clown loaches a few times, but that's not how you're supposed to keep them. Now we have a big group. So we've got 2 large pictus cats. Here's a 3rd pictus cat. And I know this is all bottom dwellers, but it's not going to stay that way. But we're doing the bottom dwellers first. So here's our 3rd larger pictus cat. Our last bag of bottom dwellers is 3 more pictus cats. So that gives us 12 clown loaches and 6 pictus cats. And I believe with the cats, there are 3 of the spotted pictus and 3 of the 4-line. Maybe 4 of the spotted and 2 of the 4-line pictus. And like I was talking about earlier, I think a tendency for a lot of new fish keepers, I know what I did at first, was get one of everything. Like I could have 30 varieties of fish in a tank this size, but it turns into kind of a busy mess, and their activities don't necessarily match each other. Whereas these are schooling fish, they want to be in groups, and they're going to be happier that way. Now we're going to get our non-bottom dwellers. These are going to be the activity fish out in the middle of the tank. And this is another one that will outgrow this 125 gallon. Which if you didn't know, 125 gallon is a pretty good sized tank. That is 6 foot long, 18 inches wide, and about 2 foot tall. The Bala shark will outgrow that, but it takes it a long time. It really does have kind of a shark-like look to it, the shape of its body and the way it swims around, but it's just a peaceful fish that gets pretty good size. And it's the only fish in here that won't have a similar tank mate to it, but as it gets bigger, it will kind of dominate the center of the tank, but it's peaceful. It won't do it in a bad way. I've been asking you guys for a lot of opinions on what fish I should get, and it seems like there's a strong trend for the next 2 fish. This one is one that I never would have given much thought to in the past, but I've been to a few stores that had the adult versions of these, and they're absolutely stunning when they get big. Now when they're little, not as much, but these have 2 common names. The most accurate name I would say is Denison barb. They also are called Rosaline sharks. They're very fast swimmers, very active, have beautiful colorations with the split tail. Just a very cool fish. So if you notice the trend here, some of my tanks are about aggression. Some of them are all about the plants. Some of them are seeing if I can keep, you know, a beautiful rare fish or an expensive fish. This tank is about energy and activity. I wanted this tank to be an aquarium where something is always happening. And I also wanted fish that didn't really eat the plants, and I think I've accomplished that because this is a heavily planted tank. This last fish is what I get the most requests for. Now, I added all these fish on the same day intentionally. I wanted to stock this whole thing out in one video, but it's not done because this species right here is the Bozeman Rainbow fish. And I'd like to have maybe 15 rainbow fish in here, at least a dozen. But I can only find 4. I went to all the local area pet stores. Every time I found clown loaches, I asked them to hold them for me, and one store ordered some in for me. That's how I got to a dozen. It was the same with all of these. Most of the time, if I went to every store in my area, I could not find this many pictus cats. I couldn't find this many clown loaches. I hardly ever find the denison barbs or the Rosaline sharks, and I hardly ever find rainbow fish. So it took a little bit of effort to get this collection of fish all on the same day. But there you have it, 4 Bozeman rainbows. And only one of them is really showing their coloration right now. But I've gotten more requests from people telling me I needed to keep rainbows than any other fish. So now we've got some. So there are a few other fish in here. Up at the top, there are some zebra danios that you might be able to see swimming around. Those were put in here to kind of season the tank, cycle the tank, and they're too hard to catch. So I guess they're going to stay and be part of this little family. There are also several bristlenose plecos. You guys know I love bristlenose plecos. And I think there are 4 or 5 of them in here, but they're all small. All right, so the Rosaline sharks are schooling together. The rainbows are kind of staying together. You know, these guys are just acclimating. They're a little freaked out by being moved multiple times, being in the bag for a long time. We got the pictus hanging out together. Just a couple of buddies. There's a little pictus. So when you set up a tank like this, it's tempting to add 100 fish. And I could add 100 fish to this. But let's see, how many did we add? 12, 5, 17. We added 26 fish to this tank, and there were already some bristlenose in it. 27. And it would be tempting. I could add so many more fish to this. I mean, it looks empty. But when you think about, you know, the size that all these fish get to, the best thing I could do for the fish is to not add any more and just let these fish grow together. I mean, if you've seen adult clown loaches and then you picture a dozen of them, they're going to take up a lot of room in here. Now, I am going to add more fish, but really my intention is to let the Bala shark, where'd the Bala shark go? Bala shark is hanging out back there. So my intention is to let the Bala shark kind of be the big fish that draws your eye. And then I've only got 5 of the Rosaline barbs. I've only got 5 of the Rosaline sharks. And they have a lot more color to them as they get bigger. But I'd like to add maybe 5 more of those. And then I sent my favorite fish store a message and asked him if he could order more rainbow fish for me. And make sure I had some bright colors in here. So he'll be getting those for me. Maybe when it's said and done, have 10 denison barbs, 10 rainbow fish, the 5 pictus catfish, 12 clown loaches, and 1 Bala shark in here with the bristlenose. That's a stock tank in my mind. Now, it's hard to picture when they're small, but tell me your opinion, if you've kept any of these fish or you've had a 125 gallon before. With this being a heavily planted tank, when all these plants grow in, I mean, sword plants get huge. There's another bristlenose. But sword plants get huge. These plants are just carpeting the bottom. They're spreading everywhere. When all these plants fill in, they're going to carpet all the way across here. And you picture the tank like that. Have I overstocked it, understocked it, or just right? So let me know in the comments what you think about this tank setup. Would you do a tank like this? How do you think it's going to look? Do you guys still like that red as a background? It came with the red. I thought I'll give it a try and change it if I don't like it. I think I kind of like it. So let me know what you think. I appreciate you taking time to watch the video. I'll put links on the screen to a couple more of our videos, and I'll see you next time.